The baseball world received absolutely shocking news that has left the entire sports community in a state of outrage and disbelief. Following yesterday's game between the Los Angeles Dodgers and Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field, a horrific incident occurred in the player parking area that has no precedent in modern baseball history. 3 Cubs players allegedly engaged in a coordinated and savage physical attack on Shohei Ohtani as he was leaving the stadium following the game. The attack was so serious and so violent that it has prompted immediate intervention from law enforcement authorities. However, before involving the criminal justice system, Shohei Ohtani made the unprecedented decision to formally report the incident directly to Major League Baseball. The Japanese superstar has provided detailed accounts of the attack to MLB officials, describing a coordinated assault that he believes was motivated by the ongoing hostility directed at him by the Cubs organization. What exactly happened during this shocking attack? How many Cubs players were involved, and what was the extent of Ohtani's injuries? Why did Ohtani choose to report the incident to MLB before involving law enforcement? And what will be the consequences for the Cubs players involved in this savage assault? Following yesterday's game, the Dodgers emerged victorious with a hard-fought win over the Cubs at Wrigley Field. The game had been contentious and emotionally charged, particularly following the earlier incident where umpires had destroyed Ohtani's bat. As the final out was recorded, players began making their way out of the stadium to head toward the player parking area where team buses and personal vehicles were waiting. Shohei Ohtani, following standard protocol after games, made his way through the stadium corridors toward the exit that leads to the player parking area. The Japanese superstar was accompanied by a small security detail, but according to witnesses, the security presence was minimal and routine for a typical post-game situation. However, as Ohtani was walking toward his vehicle in the parking area, 3 Cubs players allegedly emerged from the shadows and confronted him. According to Ohtani's detailed account provided to MLB investigators, the 3 players approached him in what appeared to be a premeditated and coordinated manner. The 3 Cubs players have been identified as veteran infielder, relief pitcher, and outfielder. All 3 players had played in yesterday's game and apparently waited until after the game concluded before engaging in the alleged attack. According to Ohtani's statement, the 3 players surrounded him and began verbally confronting him about his performance and his presence in the league. Ohtani stated that the initial confrontation was verbal in nature, with the 3 Cubs players making derogatory comments and expressing hostility toward him. However, the situation quickly escalated into physical violence. According to Ohtani's account, one of the Cubs players allegedly shoved him forcefully, causing Ohtani to lose his balance. As Ohtani attempted to recover from the initial shove, the other 2 Cubs players allegedly moved in and began striking him repeatedly. Ohtani described being hit multiple times by the 3 players in what he characterized as a savage and coordinated attack. The violence was serious enough that Ohtani fell to the ground during the assault. According to witnesses who were in the parking area at the time, the attack lasted approximately 2 minutes before security personnel and Dodgers staff members intervened and separated the attackers from Ohtani. Multiple people rushed to Ohtani's aid as the 3 Cubs players were physically restrained and moved away from the injured superstar. The extent of Ohtani's injuries became apparent immediately following the assault. Ohtani was bloodied and visibly hurt, with clear evidence of trauma to his face, torso, and extremities. Security personnel and medical staff quickly assessed his condition and called for emergency medical assistance. Paramedics arrived at the scene within minutes and provided immediate medical evaluation and treatment. Ohtani was transported to a nearby hospital for comprehensive medical examination and imaging to assess the full extent of his injuries. According to initial medical reports, Ohtani has sustained multiple contusions, several lacerations requiring stitches, and at least 1 confirmed fracture to his left hand. The attack occurred in full view of numerous witnesses, including Dodgers players and staff members who were also in the parking area preparing to leave. Freddie Freeman witnessed at least part of the assault and immediately moved toward Ohtani to provide assistance and protection. Freeman's presence and quick response likely prevented the attack from becoming even more violent and severe. In the immediate aftermath of the assault, Ohtani made the unprecedented decision to report the incident directly to Major League Baseball rather than immediately involving law enforcement authorities. Sources close to Ohtani suggest that the Japanese superstar felt that MLB bore some responsibility for the ongoing hostility directed at him by the Cubs organization and that he wanted the league to address the situation. Ohtani contacted MLB officials late last night and provided them with a comprehensive account of the attack. The superstar detailed the identities of the 3 Cubs players involved, described the specific actions each player took during the assault, and explained his belief that the attack was a direct result of the hostile environment the Cubs organization had fostered around him throughout the season. Ohtani's statement to MLB officials emphasized that this attack was not an isolated incident but rather the culmination of weeks of escalating hostility, disrespect, and aggression directed at him by the Cubs organization. Ohtani described the attack as a natural and inevitable outcome of the culture of animosity that had been allowed to develop unchecked. This attack did not happen by accident or by chance, Ohtani stated in his formal complaint to MLB. 3 players did not independently decide to assault me in the parking lot. They were motivated by the culture of hostility and disrespect that the Cubs organization has fostered toward me. I hold the Cubs organization responsible for creating the environment that made this violence possible. Ohtani's decision to report the incident to MLB first was motivated by his belief that the league bore responsibility for allowing the Cubs organization to maintain standards and practices that encouraged hostility toward him. Ohtani indicated that he would also be pursuing legal action through law enforcement but wanted MLB to take immediate action to address the broader organizational issues at the Cubs. Manager Dave Roberts has been devastated and outraged by the attack on his superstar player. Roberts made an immediate statement expressing his complete shock and condemnation of the violence perpetrated by the 3 Cubs players. The manager stated that such conduct was completely unacceptable and that he expected both MLB and law enforcement to pursue serious consequences for the perpetrators. "What happened to Shohei is unconscionable," Roberts said, his voice filled with emotion and anger. 3 professional players attacked one of our teammates in the parking lot after a game. This is not competition. This is not baseball. This is violent assault, and it will not be tolerated. I expect MLB and law enforcement to pursue the maximum available consequences for these players. Freddie Freeman also addressed the incident with obvious emotion and concern for his teammate. Freeman described witnessing part of the attack and expressed his determination to help Ohtani and to ensure that justice is served. Freeman called the attack cowardly and inexcusable, emphasizing that such conduct had no place in professional sports or in society. I was there, Freeman said, his voice shaking with emotion. I saw what they did to Shohei. 3 of them attacking one person. It was brutal and cowardly. I am proud of how our organization has stood by Shohei throughout this entire ordeal, and we will continue to support him completely as he recovers and as justice is pursued. The Chicago Cubs organization has released a statement indicating that they are cooperating fully with MLB and law enforcement investigations into the assault. The statement expressed shock and disapproval of the players' conduct, emphasizing that such behavior does not represent the values or standards of the organization. However, the Cubs statement has been criticized as inadequate and insufficient given the organization's alleged role in fostering the hostile environment that may have contributed to the attack. Several analysts and commentators have noted that the Cubs organization appears to have lost control of their player conduct and that more substantial action is needed. The 3 Cubs players involved in the alleged attack have reportedly lawyered up and are not making public statements. However, sources close to the investigation indicate that the players have been interviewed by both MLB officials and law enforcement authorities. Major League Baseball has announced that it will be conducting a comprehensive investigation into the assault and will be considering what disciplinary action is appropriate under league rules. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred has indicated that the league takes violent conduct by its players with the utmost seriousness and that severe penalties will be imposed. The alleged assault on Shohei Ohtani is one of the most serious player conduct matters we have ever investigated, Manfred stated in a brief statement. We will pursue a thorough investigation and will impose appropriate disciplinary action. Violence of this nature is completely unacceptable and will not be tolerated in Major League Baseball. Law enforcement authorities have opened a criminal investigation into the assault and have stated that they are treating the matter with appropriate seriousness. Authorities have indicated that assault and battery charges will likely be filed against the 3 Cubs players involved in the attack. The incident has sparked widespread outrage throughout baseball and beyond. Players from across the league have issued statements condemning the violence and expressing support for Ohtani. The Players Association has indicated that it will be closely monitoring the situation and will provide support to Ohtani throughout the investigation and any potential legal proceedings. Sports commentators and analysts have characterized the attack as a watershed moment for Major League Baseball and for the sport of baseball more broadly. Many experts have emphasized that this incident represents a failure of organizational leadership at the Cubs and a failure of MLB to adequately address escalating hostility before it culminated in physical violence. Medical updates on Ohtani's condition indicate that while he has sustained significant injuries, he is expected to make a full physical recovery with time and appropriate medical care. However, the psychological impact of being violently assaulted by 3 professional athletes is anticipated to be substantial. Ohtani has indicated that he intends to pursue both administrative remedies through MLB and criminal prosecution through the justice system. The superstar has stated his commitment to ensuring that the 3 players are held accountable for their actions and that the Cubs organization is forced to address the systemic issues that contributed to the violence. Thank you for watching. The savage attack on Shohei Ohtani by 3 Cubs players and his subsequent decision to report the incident directly to MLB represent unprecedented developments that have shocked the baseball world. Please share your thoughts in the comments section about this horrifying incident. Do you believe the 3 Cubs players should face criminal charges and significant MLB suspensions? What systemic changes should MLB and the Cubs organization implement to prevent such violence in the future? Subscribe to our channel for more interesting and up-to-date information about Shohei Ohtani and all the latest developments in Major League Baseball.